Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here. I'm Mims, and I was excited to find a VR to do. This is from Simon at the Hermit's Cave, and it's called the Deck That tag. So I'm sure most of you have seen his, but just in case, I will put the link to his video, and then I will also put the prompts below if it's something that you would like to participate in. And as he mentioned, I thought that was a good reminder that even if you don't have a channel, you can always do a VR, you could list the decks if you want in a comment on his video, or if you want on mine. I thought that was a good reminder, and I need to remember to include that because not everybody has a video channel or wants to start one. Okay, so there are 12 prompts, and I really liked them. I had a hard time picking for some of them, and I think for like a lot of us might say on a different day, some of these might even be a little bit different, but these decks definitely fill these prompts. So let's get started. The first one is the deck that reflects who I used to be. And I'm gonna go with Spelled Out Tarot. And Spelled Out Tarot is a Rider-Waite-Smith deck with keywords. And I'm holding this up because I stomped on the box years ago, but I always keep it so that I could show someone. Anyway, it's by Alexander Freeman and Christine Yu, and it's independently produced and published, and it's a Rider-Waite-Smith clone with keywords on both the top and the bottom. Now there's a lot of decks like this out there with keywords, but I really love this, and I think this is a great gift for a beginner. But the reason that this reflects who I used to be, I've been reading tarot for about 10 years, and I would say that I felt pretty good about meanings and everything else in my first year, definitely within my second. But this came out in like 2022, and I felt like I needed it. Like I got like that I used to be, as in not confident. I guess I could show some more of the cards. Not confident in my own ability to decipher the words and the images, of a deck that I know and love and have used for a long time. I think we all have our own learning curve, and one of the things that I love about tarot is I think it's an ongoing thing. I'm sure that I'm going to read tarot for the rest of my life, and I'm always going to have something new to learn. There's always a class to take. There's always someone who gives you a new idea or sparks a kernel of something where you're like, oh yeah. Or maybe you want to deep dive into a deck that you haven't touched in a long time, or you get a new deck and there's a whole, or you revisit symbolism, or you dive into another system, whatever it might be. Anyway, this deck represents the old me in a way of that I wasn't confident in my own ability, and that actually reflects me in a lot of ways, not just within tarot. But while I love that as a deck, now I want to remember that, if I'm going to use it, I'm using it with someone who's beginning and wanting to ask questions, but I'm not using it because I need it anymore. And that has taken a while. And I wish it's a lesson that I could have learned a lot sooner, not just within tarot, but within a lot of things. But we'll go with that, as in something that I would love to completely let go of. Not being confident in my own abilities, not seeking help when I need it, etc., etc. Okay, moving on, because we don't need this to be a therapy session. Number 2 is the deck that surprised me the most. This is still pretty new, and actually I just did a birthday haul video a couple weeks ago, and this is one of the decks. It's the Goddess of Love Tarot. I had seen it. Several people have been talking about it for at least a couple of years, but I had seen it, I don't know when this one came out. So this is by Gabriella Herstick, and the illustrations are by Julia Popescu, Snakes for Hair. And this is a mass market deck. This is published by TarotTube. And this deck surprised me because I didn't think that I wanted to do goddess work. And I even now kind of wrinkle my nose. But I had seen several people talk about it. And I remember thinking like, oh, that's a pretty deck. And good for them. Like, that's really cool. And then I watched, I don't remember who it was that did more of a deep dive. Oh, those are the backs. And I realized that I really wanted it. And so I've had it now like 3 weeks, not even. And I love it. And I don't think it's just the novelty of a new deck, because I got several decks for my birthday, or gave myself several decks. But there's something about it that, you know, the guidebook is really good. I definitely am excited about this deck for some self-love work, and I also just think it's beautiful. But yeah, this deck really surprised me. I didn't think that I wanted to do the kind of work that felt useful with this deck, but I actually do. And so that was a surprise to me. And that just in, you know, a couple weeks of using it, I really love it. So that is the deck that surprised me. Goddess of Love Tarot. A book and deck for embodying the erotic divine feminine. Okay, next. The deck that intimidates me. I have two. One is also a new deck. I've been meaning to get this deck for a while because I accidentally bought what was a bootleg copy like a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years ago. And it's the Hermetic Tarot. And I'm a bit intimidated by it just because there's so much in here. There's so much symbolism. But I'm also excited about it. One of the reasons that I was excited to get it. So this is by Godfrey Dawson, published by US Games. Those are the backs. One of the reasons that I wanted to get it was I thought that it would be helpful, and definitely a deck that I want to do kind of a side-by-side with the writer. I want to do like a side-by-side study, or at least some examination with this and the Golden Dawn Tarot and Rider-Waite-Smith and Thoth. I just thought it would be helpful. But it intimidates me just because there is so many layers of symbolism. And one of the reasons that I love that it's a black and white is for the fact that it feels like that helps to strip away. I think if this deck had color with it, it might be too much. So I do love kind of the stripping away with the, you know, in terms of the color. But I still just feel a bit intimidated by it. Just that it feels like I don't want to miss anything. We'll put it that way. And then the second deck that I have for this prompt, this is the only one where I have 2 prompts. Or, I mean, this is the only prompt where I have 2 decks. And the second one is, let me get this back together. And I'm going to move these so I don't lose them. The second one is a reproduction or a facsimile. And it is published by Viewmont Press. And this is the Tarot Allemand. And one of the reasons that I'm intimidated by it is I don't have a book to go with it. And so I know that I need to find one. So these are the backs. But I think I'm a bit intimidated by it because I did just like a quick search and haven't found much. And I know there's probably a lot of resources. So if anybody has a good suggestion, let me know. Again, this is from Viewmont Press, and it's a reproduction of what's called the Tarot Allemand. I hope I'm saying that right. And then all of the The pip cards look like that. They're just very simple. But yeah, this deck intimidates me because I do want to, you know more about it and to study it more. But it doesn't, like I said, it didn't have a guidebook, and I haven't found much about it. Again, that was just more of a, I bought it on a whim. And like I said, I'm sure there's a ton of stuff out there, but I feel intimidated because an initial search, I didn't uncover much. So that's the Tarot Alimond, published by Viewmont Press. Okay, next, the deck that's pure comfort. I did an unboxing of this deck back in May, and it's now a new favorite. This is the Cowgirl Tarot by Gentle Thrills. Isa Beniston, I'm sure a lot of you know the Gentle Thrills Tarot that was an indie deck, and then a mass market deck with Hay House. This is still an indie deck, and I found it. I hadn't seen anyone talk about it, but this is my new comfort deck. It's silly and fun and quirky and weird and just darling. And this one is in a Marseille style, but there are still some illustrations on some of them. But this cute little cowgirl, and from what I've discovered, she is inspired by the artist's dog, who was called Cowgirl. And she's just like, I don't know, like, I've pulled this out so many times in the last 2 to 3 months, and I laugh every time. It's so funny, and yet despite it being just silly, it's also a really good deck, and it's also just very comforting. And yeah, she's just cute and sweet and weird, and yeah, really fun deck, and it's definitely comforting. The Cowgirl Tarot. And in a time where I feel like there's not a lot of laughter just because of everything going on in the world, this deck helps that. And I feel like sometimes comfort starts with humor for me. And so if you can giggle a little bit, even when you're, you know, pulling cards for a daily reading, highly recommend it. I will list all of the decks that I've shared below, and any of the indie decks, I will include websites. I don't think I have anything too obscure, but still, just in case, you know, every once in a while there's something that someone shares and you think, oh, I'd love to find that. So like I said, I will list the decks below, and I will include websites for, not affiliate links, but websites for any indie decks. Okay, next, the deck that gives the best readings. Crow Tarot. This is the mass market edition by MJ Cullinane, published by US Games. This deck never fails for me, and I know this has, you know, been talked about a bazillion times. I just love it. I've loved crows since I was a little kid, and so I got it partly because of that. I also love MJ Cullinane's art and her work. If I could, I would get, and eventually, maybe I will eventually get every deck that she's made. But it's not just, you know, an attraction to artwork and an attraction to crows. This really gives me the readings that I need. It can be harsh, it can be dark, it can be funny. I think kind of the way crows are. This just is a deck that always gives me the readings that I need. And I love that prompt because I had to think about it, and not for very long. But yeah, the Crow Tarot is the deck that gives me the best readings. A deck that's too pretty to use, but I still love it. Okay, pardon me, they just started mowing late in the afternoon, so there's some background noise. The deck that's too pretty, but I still love it. This is actually kind of new in my collection. It's mass market. It's Oracle Jane Austen. This is by published by Titan Books, and it's by Lulu Manuz. I love a good Jane Austen deck, and this one is really pretty. These are the backs, and they're just, it's just a beautiful deck. Oh, and it's also got kind of this, oh, not kind of, this gold gilding, and they're shiny, and there's also some really good cards in here. There's one about like toxic love, and it's also surprisingly a really good deck. I remember thinking that I would get it anyway because it's a Jane Austen mass market, but I've also discovered that it's also really great at giving, you know, I feel like there's layers more than you would think here, and it's pretty, yeah, but it's not too pretty to use, and I love it anyway. So Oracle Jane Austen by Lulu Manus, published by Titan Books. Okay. The deck that made me fall in love with tarot again. I had to think about this one because I've never fallen out of love with tarot. Oh, and it's happy hour time, so I poured a glass of wine. I'm gonna take a sip. The deck that made me fall in love with tarot again, I will say though, this deck connected me, and it was, so I've been reading tarot, like I said, for 10 years, but I never thought about tarot and social media. And it wasn't like I wasn't on social media, I just never had connected the two. Then sometime last spring, so like spring of 24, I was looking for, and I thought about it, and I thought, because most of the time if I ever bought a deck, it was like a deck, if I sometimes found decks used, but I already knew the deck that I wanted, like, so I'd shop on like Mercari or eBay. And I also, most of the time, the decks that I found were decks because I was looking at a store. So I didn't really think about social media. And then this deck, I was looking up, I just decided to do a search for bird tarot decks. And I came across, and actually I think it was last summer. Anyway, I came across the Little Bird Tarot, and I had missed the Kickstarter. This is created by Shanna D, who I'm sure a lot of you know. And she made this lovely deck, and like I said, I had missed the Kickstarter for it, but I put it on my wish list. And one of the things that I did was, once I had found, you know, her, I started watching her channel. And I commented on one of her videos saying, I really love your channel, something, something, and I would love to start a tarot channel, but I'm intimidated, etc. She was really kind, and the first thing she did, I guess I can show you the cards. These are the backs. Aren't those beautiful? Right after that, she liked my comment and replied and said, you know, if there's any help you need, let me know. And she subscribed before I had a channel. So this deck and the kindness of Shanna made me fall in love with tarot in a new way, and made me, you know, find TarotTube and find all the fun things that were here that just were there all along and I just didn't know about it. I'd even been watching YouTube. It wasn't like I hadn't seen it, but I'd never looked for tarot stuff. Anyway, this deck, the Little Bird Tarot, is definitely something that made me fall in love. And this is the artwork of John James Audubon. I also love like field guides and things, so this was right up my alley. And I love these old, you know, like biological sketches, old field guides, always I love. And so this deck definitely, but more specifically it was Shanna, the creator of the deck, that made me fall in love with tarot again, or made me fall in love with tarot in a new way. So that's the Little Bird Tarot. She's currently working on the second edition of this, or the second printing, I'm not sure what to call it. So if you're interested in this deck, definitely check out Shanna's channel, and she will definitely keep you updated. I will include the link to her just because, yes. Okay, the next one. The deck that made me, the deck that I wished more people talked about. Here is a deck. I've never seen anyone talk about it. I'm sure somebody has, but I've missed it. It's the Tarot Botanical, Tarot Botanical Tarot deck. It's by Earth Tricks. I found it noodling around on Etsy, and I saved it, like favorited it, and then finally bought it, I don't know, back in the winter. And it's a black and white one. The guidebook is tiny, but it's crammed with info. It's a great guidebook, but look at these illustrations. So it's all black and white, and I love a good black and white deck, but it's all illustrations and then elemental symbols, and it's a deck you can find on Etsy, and it's at a mass market price. It's usually somewhere in that like 28 to 38 range, and I love it, and I think more people might enjoy it. For one, it's a great, you know, if you love illustrations, if you like a black and white deck, if you want something a little bit different, but it's beautiful. And like I said, I don't know anyone that's talked about it. I'm sure there are people, but nobody that I've come across. But there was also something, at least for me, it felt, you know, it's kind of like the thrill of discovery. You know, like when you go to the bookstore and you find that book that you haven't heard anyone talk about. Same with this. It really was me noodling around, just looking through decks on Etsy. And I found it and I was super excited, but I wish more people would talk about it because I think it's great. And I do think because it's black and white, but it is plants, that feels like it's a little bit different. And I love it. It's a really good deck. Tarot Botanical Tarot deck by Earth Tricks. Okay, next. The deck that feels like a secret between us. Okay, this might seem odd because this is not, no, a lot of people know about this deck. It was an indie deck before, but it's the Trinity Tarot by Ari Weisner. I got it just in the winter, spring of 25, and then I have the mass market version. So like I said, I'm sure it feels a little bit like the Tarot Botanical, but this one feels like a little secret to me because I will throw it in my bag and I can use it anywhere because it is so small. So it's these little, and it just feels like a little secret because all the symbolism is there, but like if you were at a coffee shop, someone might not necessarily, at least from far away, recognize it as a tarot deck. And so I kind of love it for that. And then I also, again, maybe lots of people are talking about it, but it feels like a really undiscovered, or it's a gem that maybe once it hit mass market, not as many people have talked about it. But I love it, and I love how, for one, it's kind of fun to have a little square deck. It's the only square deck that I have. I love that it's small, so it's easy to, you know, like I said, throw in a bag. It feels sturdy, and it also, I love how quiet it is. You know, you've taken all the people out, but all the symbolism is there. And yeah, it's a deck that I really enjoy using, and I love having it when I do bring something for on the go. It doesn't take up a lot of space, and yet it's not missing anything. It's the Trinity Tarot by Ari Weisner, the mass market version published by US Games. Okay, the deck that defines my tarot practice now, that would be the Tarot of Hearts. And I love this. I've only had this a few months, but I kind of know this is one of those perennial decks. Like, I'm going to have it forever and enjoy it and use it. But what I try to do, what I do is I tend to have one deck that I'm working with as like my, if I say study deck, that makes it sound deeper than it is. But what I do is I work with a deck, and I usually pick one for each month, and then work with all of the cards and really read through the guidebook. And so this is my July, for lack of a better phrase, I'll call it a study deck. For one, aren't those just beautiful? So Isabel Hayes is the creator. And I love this. I love the color. I love the guidebook. I think there's a lot here. And it's surprising to me, like, how deep it feels like it goes. But this is the deck that I'm using this month as my study deck. Even though I don't think of it like maybe a deck study in some ways. But I'm reading through all of the book and and working with all of the cards this month. And I love it. That's Tarot of Hearts by Isabel Hayes. Published by US Games, and this is the deck that defines my tarot practice right now. And I'm saying that because it's the deck that I'm using this month for study. And I love it. Okay. Next one. The deck that pulls me out of a rut. The Outlaw Oracle. This is by Hilary Banks Self, and I know that this definitely made the circuit on YouTube maybe a couple of years ago. Those are the backs. But this deck, and I have the first edition, she has a newer edition now. I think most of the cards are the same, but I think a couple have been changed, and I'm sure that there were some updates to the guidebook. But this deck really does pull me out of a rut. It gives me a straight answer when I need it, and it kind of shakes me out of my funk. And, yeah. And the guidebook is really good as well. And, yeah, that definitely is the deck that pulls me out of a rut, the Outlaw Oracle by Hilary Banks Self. And then last one, the deck that waits patiently. I was debating between two decks, and I realized that this will work. I learned on the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. I learned on the plaid back mass market version, and I still come back to that deck. But this is more recent in my collection, and it was one of my decks from a birthday haul. I had my birthday earlier this month, and this deck, I thought it was fun to get this copy, the Albano Waite. This is this is not the rare one, this is the mass market one. And this deck will wait patiently because right now I'm playing with all my other new decks, but I know that when I want to come back to this deck, it's a little bit new and a little bit old because I've long used the the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. But this deck is waiting patiently for me, and I love the color, and I love that with all of the many different colorizations or colorings of, I love those vibrant colors. I love the different take on it, and I love that there's a mass market option, especially when there's so many cool out of print and really rare ones. It's fun that there's a deck like this that comes along, or that's been around at a mass market price with some fun and funky colors. And so this deck will definitely wait patiently while I play with all my new ones, and then I'll get to know this one too a bit. And I will enjoy its take on things. You know, because every Rider-Waite-Smith, and I have a few, but every one of them, you know, they do give slightly different messages, you know, with the different colors, and, you know, they just have a slightly different voice. But I know that this one will wait for me patiently while I play with those new ones, and then come to know what's sort of the best of old and new. It's new to me in terms of color, it's new to me in terms of my collection, and then it's an old classic because it's familiar. It's the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but in a slightly different version. So this is the Albano Waite, the Mass Market US Games edition. So there we go. Those are the 12 prompts and the 13 decks. Thank you to Simon for this prompt, or this tag. I quite enjoyed it, and it was fun to think about these decks and how they shape us, and how we, you know, I'm sure I could have dug more and even come up with some other possibilities, but I did enjoy this, and it was a neat way to ponder and reflect upon my tarot practice and my tarot library and so forth. So thanks to Simon for creating this, and I appreciate all he does for TarotTube. It's always fun to watch his Saturday videos, and it's fun to see his unboxings, and I just love the community that he has helped create here. So thanks so much, and I hope you're well. Hope you're taking care of yourself. Hope you're finding joy, and I hope to see you in the next video, and I hope to watch more of these. This tag was a lot of fun to make, or a lot of fun to respond to. Thanks again. Take care.